everyone, this is Will, and in this video I'm gonna show you how to make your very first wood smart material with Substance Painter. So if you watched any of my videos in the past, you've seen that I use a lot of smart materials. Some of them are mine and some of them I just bought it. So smart material is super useful for your workflow. It makes it a lot faster. This is especially useful if you're making your own game or you're in a pre-production of your game, to have a nice library so you don't have to make every texture from scratch for every new asset that you make. So let's jump right in. Okay, so here in Substance Painter I brought my planks in here. I'll put this on the description so you can use if you want, just to learn and to test. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna separate a few folders for everything I want. So the first thing is gonna be the base. I'm gonna add another one for variations and another one for adjustments. That should be enough for now, and then let's get started with all of this. So let's start with the base. Add a few layers and choose a wood color. It's good for you to use a roughness that is somewhat high for now, and you can change that later. Duplicate this layer and choose a brighter color. Add a generator to the black mask and use the curvature generator. Add a curvature map and invert it with levels. Play around with the parameters until you're satisfied. You can duplicate this last layer and add the levels to it. Invert the mask. You can create another layer and use a darker color now. Use a blur filter to make it softer. It's already starting to look nice. Okay, let's create a new layer and add a black mask again. And now I'm gonna use the light generator and choose a soft and brighter color, and would be good to add a different hue also. Duplicate this layer and change it to a bluish color to add as a kind of a shadow. We're gonna use this light and we're gonna invert the vertical angle, and you can decrease the opacity a little bit. A higher saturation works best for this case. I want it to be really subtle. Now the last thing on the base, add a fill layer, and we're gonna use this as a gradient. I'm gonna invert it. I'm gonna drag this to the bottom, and I'm gonna use a similar color to the base one. And for this case, I'm actually gonna give a different option for when I actually use this smart material. I'm gonna add a fill layer and I'm gonna use a blender projection, and I'm gonna add a different way of adding gradients to here, in a way that when I actually use this, I can position in this case, for example, I can duplicate this gradient and I can use the different blanks in here to have the same gradient. Nice. I'm gonna duplicate this. I'm gonna use this one as the opposite. So I'm gonna change this to a lighter color and I'm gonna invert all of them. I think it's a little bit too much, so I'm gonna decrease a little bit the opacity, maybe for this one also. Okay, great. So our wood's already starting to look nice. Okay, so the base, we really have a pretty good base right now. It's already looking pretty nice. So what we can start working on is the variations now. So for this variation, I'm thinking of giving a few options to anyone that's using the smart material. I'm gonna start with the more basic one, that it's gonna be a few spots in here. When I'm actually trying different textures for the variations, I usually like to keep a different color, like a white, for example, like I'm using now, because it makes it easier to understand what the texture is doing here. So what we're gonna do is add a few layers in here, and I'm gonna look for, let's see if there's any spots maybe. That's how this one looks. This should be fine. This should be interesting to add. Let's see if there's any option. There's no option of scaling. Maybe it's just like dots, it will work also. So I'll even name it dots. And let's see, maybe blending mode will work better for this. Let's take a look at different blending modes. You want to make sure that your folder is set to pass through here, so it actually affects the blending mode. Yeah, I feel like this works, but maybe what I want to do in here is add. I'm gonna decrease the opacity to be very, very low, and I'm gonna give an option for multiplying this with the Berlin noise, so we can decrease this in a few parts. Yeah, so we have a few variations, or we can even decrease the amount of dots we have. Yeah, something like this. Okay, nice. Let's go to the next one. I'm gonna add a new fill layer. Let's take a look at some spots again. I wanted some spots that are bigger, that will actually affect the color and everything. This one looks good, but I feel like it's a little bit too much noise. That's not good. Let's take a look at only at some grunge. So this works really nice for me. I'm gonna change the projection to blender projection, and maybe I'm gonna rotate a little bit, and I'm gonna add a filter to it to add some blur slope also. Nice. And now I'm gonna change this to soft light. I'm gonna change the base color to something yellowish. Yeah, yellowish, more closer to white actually. I feel like this works pretty fine to me. Let's change a little bit the rotation here. Nice. I'm gonna decrease a little the opacity just so we have some variations. I'm gonna actually rotate this through blender projections just to make sure that everything's not the same at both sides. Nice. One more thing I think we can add in here is something to add a little bit more directionality. And I know we have a few options in here. Let's see the one that looks better. So one that I use very regularly is this isotropic. So maybe we can give a few different options for when we use this smart material. I'm gonna start with this isotropic noise, and let's see how we can make it look. It's already look pretty nice to me. I think playing around with parameters can make it look even better. Okay, so another option we have is this crunch wood liquid, I guess. This is a good one for us, maybe just changing the rotation a little. And right now it's a little bit too much, I guess, so we can play around with the parameters. And I guess adding a blur slope to it might help a little bit also. Yeah, great, I guess that's look pretty nice to me. Let's see how that would look together with the isotropic. Yeah, maybe that would work also. Okay, so that looks pretty good to me. Now to the adjustments. Add a new fill layer and change this to a bluish color and change the blending mode to multiply. And you're gonna add ambient occlusion. Remember to change the folder blending mode to pass through again. The way I like to use ambient occlusion for stylized stuff is having a pretty strong ambient occlusion, and then at first it does not look right in your base color, but then you decrease a little bit the intensity and it should be fine. Now another thing it's good to add is another fill layer where you can play around with pretty much adjust the contrast and everything. So usually like you can just type in here like contrast and you can drag and drop this in here, and also you can type HSL and you can drag and drop that in there, and then you can change the saturation or the hue of your wood or even the lightness, and the same thing for the contrast. If you feel like this does not have enough contrast for you, you can come here and adjust that. Okay, so we're pretty much done with our smart material. I'm gonna add a new folder in here just so we can actually have our smart material. And the final thing I'm gonna add to this is a layer so we can paint the ends of the wood, like where it was cutted. So I'm gonna add this to adjustment for the final AO. So add a fill layer, you can drag and drop this in here, isolate the color, and you can change this to something that is brighter than your wood, like this, and maybe a little bit yellowish. Add a black mask and just paint that over. And you can change the blending mode to see if there's anything else that works better than the normal blending mode. Great, and the only thing I'm gonna adjust now, it's a little bit the roughness. I'm gonna go back into base color and I'm going to set a few different roughness variation to our model. So on our curvature, I'm gonna change this. The way I like to use this is on the creases on the curvature. I like to have something a little bit more glossiness and not rough, but not too much actually. And where we have image occlusion and all of that, I add more roughness. And also on the variation, it's also good to have some kind of variation on the roughness. So something like this should work fine, but I'm gonna change the blending mode of the roughness to what works better. Maybe I'm just gonna use multiply in here. Let's see, dots, same thing. And this one, I'm gonna add it just for the sake of it. Let's see how it looks, but maybe it would look fine without it. Most probably would. Yeah, it doesn't make much difference. Yeah, but the rest does look better. Okay, so finally we have our first wood smart material here in Substance Painter. In case you're wondering, to actually make this a smart material, all you gotta do is right click on the folder and create smart material from it. So now this is gonna be on your assets library, and you can delete this, for example, and just drag and drop, and everything should be looking exactly the same how it was looking before. Let's export this and see how it looks inside Unreal. Thank you everybody for watching this video. If you like, remember to leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment if you have any question or you have any suggestion at all. See ya!